CSNWashington.com.
We just heard from Robert Griffin III,
All right.
and you obviously are all over this beat here at Redskins Park. What is your recap of his minicamp?
I think Griffin did exactly what everyone in this building hoped he would do, which was have a sharp minicamp going into the offseason. Now they get that 6-week break. So now he's got a little confidence and a little momentum going into Richmond. I thought, if I were going to describe in one word his OTA performance, I probably would have said uneven. If I was going to describe his minicamp performance in one word, I would say sharp. I thought he was better on Tuesday than he was on Wednesday, but Wednesday was mostly red zone stuff, and that's a little more complicated. You're throwing fade routes, you're trying to squeeze balls into tight windows. It's a little more difficult, but to me, it looked like he made some progress, and Jay Gruden also said that he feels like his young quarterbacks made some progress.
What is the vibe you get between RG3 and Matt Cavanaugh, who is a new coach for the Redskins, obviously a very experienced guy.
Yeah.
He's a lifelong quarterback coach in the National Football League. Do you get a feel for those two working together?
Watching Cavanaugh out there on the field, he seemed like he was trying to kind of divide his time between all three quarterbacks, but he seemed to have a good rapport with Griffin. A lot of times, obviously from where we're standing, we can't hear what's being said, and Griffin wouldn't tell us a whole lot about what they've been working on, which is fair. But it seemed like there was a lot of Cavanaugh, showing him stuff as it relates to his base and his throwing motion, and a lot of nodding from Griffin. And, it's unclear whether, Griffin actually took those into that next play, took that advice. But, like I said, I thought he looked pretty good during this minicamp. So I think having Cavanaugh is going to be beneficial for Griffin.
All right, as a top-notch reporter that you are, obviously, with all the social media and all the opportunities for you to gain content, I mean, you're like, you're insatiable when it comes to Redskins content. But divorce yourself from that for a second. RG3 told me today he's only had 3 tweets in the last 3 months or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
He has not been active on social media as he was in the past. If you weren't a member of the media, would that be advice you would have given him? You're too active and you're doing too much. I mean, as a member of the media, you probably say, keep it coming, right? Because it gives you more information. But if you weren't in the media, what would you have advised him?
I think that he's probably swayed the other way a little too much, going to virtually a blackout on social media in these past few months. I think there's a happy medium to be struck. I think that maybe he was wearing people out a little bit early on with his different hashtags and his inspirational speeches, especially when you're not winning. When you're winning, you can have as many hashtags as you want, and people eat it up and they make T-shirts about it. But when you're not winning and you're struggling a bit, they don't really understand what a pro athlete goes through. And a lot of times, why are you tweeting? You should be in the film room. Well, you're not in the film room 24 hours a day. You have a personal life. You should be able to tweet and post on Facebook. I think there's a happy medium to be struck there. And he still is, I think, struggling to find it between, posting 10 times a day and, maybe telling people too much, right, and having a virtual blackout.
Now, he's obviously had a couple very serious injuries over the last
Sure.
few years, and that really has impacted his performance.
Sure. How
does he look physically? And, he's obviously got a lot of physical ability from where you watched. You saw 2 practices. What'd you think?
I thought physically this was the best he has appeared to me since his rookie season. He doesn't have any braces on any parts of his body. He doesn't seem to be struggling with anything. He said this is the best he's felt mentally and physically. And, in 2013, obviously, he was coming back from that devastating knee injury.
Right.
Last season, he was struggling to get a grasp on a new offense. This year, it should be better. He's healthy, and this is the second go-round with Jay Gruden's offense. It should be coming to him more easily and more effortlessly, and I think we're starting to see that.
Last thing before we let you go, who's calling the plays? I mean, now there's also another man involved.
I know.
I think maybe that this is kind of a process that by the time they get to camp and by the time they get there, I mean, it's not going to be 3 guys calling plays.
They've got to figure it out because you really can't have too many chefs. There's one radio in Griffin's ear. And, one thing that they struggled with a little bit last year was getting in and out of the huddle quickly, being able to get to the line, because you want Robert to be able to get to the line, survey the field, and then make checks if he has to. Right. If you're getting up there with 3 seconds to go, you're just snapping the ball. And I think if there's 3 guys, kind of getting together and saying, hey, what about that play needs to be made that play call needs to be made by one guy. And right now it sounds like Sean McVay and Jay Gruden and Bill Callahan are going to have a hand in it. But I think at the end of the day, they need to make their script, their decision on what they're going to be looking at based on each week's opponent, and then have one guy making the final decision on the play call.
CSNWashington.com.